Welcome to Wellness and Mindfulness Digest 2026-06-16. Today's 11 stories. Story 1, Our Brains and Bodies on Meditation. Story 2, Yoga and Physiology, a deep dive into 3 critical systems. Story 3, What is Yoga Nidra? An expert explains the state of conscious deep sleep for emotional healing. Story 4, Nervous System Regulation, Complete Science-Backed Guide 2026. Story 5, The Effect of a Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction Program on Stress, ScienceDirect. Story 6, EEG-Interactive VR Meditation Improves Concentration, Relaxation, and Emotional Regulation in Students. Story 7, Yoga for the Nervous System, How to Calm Your Vagus Nerve and Reset Stress. Story 8, 10-minute morning yoga routine to move your body in all the ways it needs. Story 9, Yoga for Healthy Aging, What Science Says About the World's Oldest Fitness Prescription. Story 10, Mindfulness for Anxious People, Real Techniques That Actually Work. Story 11, Bedtime Yoga Mistake, Why Relaxing Yoga Before Sleep May Be Ruining Deep Sleep Quality. Story 1, Our Brains and Bodies on Meditation. Each year on the summer solstice, more than 1 billion people across 190 countries pause to breathe, stretch, and move together for International Yoga Day. This year, the 12th edition carries a theme that feels both ancient and urgent. What does it mean to grow old, and can yoga actually help us do it better? Written by Dr. Ashish Duz and published by the Sri Sri School of Yoga, this piece digs into what modern science is revealing about one of humanity's oldest wellness practices. And the short answer is, the evidence is growing, and it's surprisingly compelling. Here's the backdrop. The global population over 60 is on track to double by 2050. Healthcare systems around the world were largely built to treat disease after it strikes, not to prevent the slow functional decline that comes with aging. The World Health Organization's Decade of Healthy Aging, running from 2021 to 2030, explicitly redefines the goal of aging not as avoiding disease, but preserving functional ability, your capacity to do the things that matter to you. Yoga, the article argues, fits that framework unusually well. What makes yoga stand out among lifestyle interventions is that it appears to address multiple aging pathways at the same time. We're not talking about one organ or one biomarker. Research cited in the article connects yoga practice to cellular health, brain function, cardiovascular performance, immune response, and psychological resilience, all at once. Perhaps the most fascinating frontier is telomere research. Telomeres are the protective caps on the ends of your chromosomes, and they naturally shorten as you age. Shorter telomeres are linked to accelerated biological aging, cognitive decline, and age-related disease. Emerging evidence suggests that experienced yoga practitioners tend to have longer telomeres than non-practitioners of similar age. Scientists believe this may be because yoga reduces chronic stress and lowers cortisol, a hormone that accelerates cellular aging when elevated over time. On the cognitive side, a 2024 UCLA study found that 12 weeks of yoga combined with breathwork and meditation in women over 50 with memory concerns actually outperformed a structured memory enhancement training program. That's a remarkable finding, a physical and breathing practice beating a dedicated cognitive training regimen. Now, some caveats. The article is published by an organization with a clear interest in promoting yoga, and several key studies are described without full citations. The telomere research in particular is still emerging and largely correlational. But the direction of evidence, across multiple independent research streams, points toward yoga as a genuinely valuable tool for the coming longevity crisis. Scalable, low-cost, and accessible in ways that pharmaceutical or clinical interventions simply are not. Story 2, Yoga and Physiology, a deep dive into 3 critical systems. If you've ever been told to just breathe while in the middle of a panic attack, you know how unhelpful that advice can feel. For millions of people with anxiety, standard mindfulness instructions don't just fail, they can actually make things worse. This guide from EQ Access, written by a certified mindfulness coach, tackles that problem head-on. It's aimed squarely at the nearly 1 in 5 American adults, 19.1%, according to the National Institute of Mental Health, who live with anxiety disorders and who have often been let down by generic wellness advice. The central insight here is something called interoceptive anxiety. That's the fear of bodily sensations, and it's exactly what gets triggered when anxious people are told to close their eyes and focus on their breathing. The author shares a telling example from her own practice. She told a client to simply notice her breath. An hour later, the client texted to say she had panicked because she couldn't feel her breath and was now convinced she was dying. A well-meaning instruction became a trigger. This is why, the article argues, traditional mindfulness frameworks built around long, seated meditations simply don't work for hyperactive nervous systems. Anxiety isn't just worry, it's a threat detection system stuck in overdrive. And telling that system to sit still and observe itself often produces more noise, not less. So what does work? The author's answer is brevity, sensory grounding, and consistency over duration. She argues that a 30-second practice done every day is more effective than a 30-minute session once a week. We're talking about practices as short as 2 conscious breaths while brushing your teeth, entry points so low that even the most avoidant, anxious person can manage them without building them into an obligation. The science backing this approach includes a 2014 meta-analysis published in JAMA Internal Medicine, which found that mindfulness programs produced significant improvements in anxiety symptoms that lasted up to 6 months. The mechanism is neurological. Mindfulness calms the amygdala, the brain's fear center, while boosting activity in the prefrontal cortex, which handles rational thinking and impulse regulation. The key takeaway is that mindfulness absolutely can work for anxious people, but it requires adaptation. One-size-fits-all guidance is not just ineffective, it can be actively harmful. For app developers, therapists, and public health communicators, that's a call to build anxiety-specific pathways into any mindfulness offering. Story 4. What is Yoga Nidra? An expert explains the state of conscious deep sleep for emotional healing. An expert-led explanation of Yoga Nidra, describing it as a guided practice of conscious deep sleep used for emotional healing and profound relaxation. The article contextualizes the practice within current understanding of its restorative and therapeutic potential. Story 5. Nervous System Regulation, Complete Science-Backed Guide 2026. A comprehensive, science-backed guide to nervous system regulation published in 2026, with a focus on how deep, slow breathing activates the parasympathetic system via vagus nerve stimulation. It directly addresses the mind-body connection and practical techniques for stress reduction. Story 6. The effect of a mindfulness-based stress reduction program on stress, ScienceDirect. A peer-reviewed study published in 2026 examining the effect of an MBSR program on parental stress, mindfulness levels, and quality of life. It adds to the growing body of clinical evidence supporting mindfulness-based interventions for specific populations under chronic stress. Story 7. EEG-Interactive VR meditation improves concentration, relaxation, and emotional regulation in students. A research news release describing a study where EEG-Interactive virtual reality meditation was shown to improve concentration, relaxation, and emotional regulation in student populations. This represents an innovative intersection of neurotechnology and mindfulness practice. Story 8. Yoga for the Nervous System, How to Calm Your Vagus Nerve and Reset Stress. This article explains how yoga specifically targets the nervous system through slow movement, long holds, and intentional breathing that stimulates the vagus nerve. It distinguishes yoga's neurological effects from general exercise, offering a clear framework for understanding somatic regulation. Story 9. 10-minute morning yoga routine to move your body in all the ways it needs. Yoga Journal offers a practical, accessible 10-minute morning yoga routine focused on intention setting and full-body movement. Published by a trusted authority in the yoga field, it provides immediate, implementable guidance for daily practice. Story 10. Yoga for Healthy Aging, What Science Says About the World's Oldest Fitness Prescription. This article synthesizes growing research linking regular yoga practice to improvements in balance, mobility, cognitive function, and cardiovascular health, particularly in the context of healthy aging. It aligns with the 2026 International Yoga Day theme of yoga for healthy aging. Story 11, Mindfulness for Anxious People, Real Techniques that Actually Work. A practical, evidence-referenced guide to mindfulness specifically tailored for people with anxiety, including citation of a brain, behavior, and immunity study showing that mindful walking reduces cortisol as effectively as seated meditation. The content is accessible, grounded, and safety-conscious. Story 12, Bedtime Yoga Mistake, Why Relaxing Yoga Before Sleep May Be Ruining Deep Sleep Quality. A nuanced, science-informed article challenging the assumption that all yoga before bed improves sleep, explaining that certain flows, deep stretches, or intense breathwork can activate the sympathetic nervous system and disrupt deep sleep. It offers important safety guidance for sleep-focused yoga practice.